Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate Maxon, your host, here with you, and I am joined this week by my brother Aaron.
What's up, it pop it?
And Senior Archie Mitchell.
What is up?
This week on the show, we are going to discuss Vidgy games, as Hank Hill calls them, Vidgy games.
Game.
But yes, we're gonna discuss video games, and we do have a match of the week that was selected by Mr. Mitchell himself. The match of the week, I'm finding, is more a vehicle, less to talk about the match, more to talk about the guys involved in the match. Because while I was watching this match, I mean, I was watching the match, but most of what I was writing down was my thoughts about the four guys involved in the match.
Exactly.
Which we will definitely get into. Four great talents.
And the funny part is I happened. Go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead, Arch. No, go ahead, Archie. Sorry.
I happened upon this match by accident because I was looking for Vader's WCW theme song, and the match was sitting there under the theme song, and I'm like, "Hey, wait a minute! I didn't know dudes are called Vader and Bam Bam Bigelow." So I watched it. I'm like, "We got to review this."
Yes, and that is the match that we're going to discuss. It is Bam Bam Bigelow and
what
Big
I was
Van
going to say,
Vader.
sorry. Like Nate talking about how it's more of a talking about the guys than the match. Honestly, who wants to sit and listen to us go hold for hold through a match? You know what I mean? It's like that's not
Right.
what it is. That would be boring. But
Yeah,
just saying that's what I like about it.
but yeah, the match we're going to be
Talking about the guys and the stuff
discussing-
surrounding it.
The match we're going to be discussing is from March 21st, 1991. It's from the WCW New Japan Super Show that they did. That actually had the match with Ric Flair and Tatsumi Fujinami for the
Right.
NWA Championship as the main event. Some of the other matches on the card, like we said, it's going to be Vader and Bam Bam versus Doom is what we're talking about. Some of the other matches on the card, the Great Muta beat Sting. Ricky Choshu beat Tiger Jeet Singh. Oof.
Ew.
Mm.
El Gigante beat Big Cat Hughes.
Which is Mr. Hughes. So that was probably a fucking disaster.
Oh yeah.
The Steiner brothers defeated Hiroshi Hase and Kensuke Sasaki. I'm sure that was pretty good. I don't know if I've ever seen it.
Oh yeah.
Arn Anderson and Barry Windham defeated Masa Saito and Masahiro Chono.
Probably a good one too.
Jushin Liger defeated Akira Nagami. Good thing this was 2 minutes long because I'm sure it was just a showcase for the first guy. Scott Norton defeated the Equalizer.
Oh God.
Ew.
Like, why did they bother flying the Equalizer to Japan?
Yeah. Why did Dave Sullivan need to be in Japan?
Shiro Kusanagi. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say though, Japanese people like that kind of wrestler though, because he gets to run out and chase them and shit like that. They're into that. The big scary American man.
Shiro Koshinaka, Kuniyaka Kobayashi, and Takayuki Izuka defeated Tim Horner, Brian Pillman, and Tom Zink.
Nate, are you okay?
Yeah, I know, right?
I think your brain is
that.
exploding.
I think it's got Bell's palsy.
Just so you know, Nate, I like looking at the card and going down them like I did last week. I looked at this one. I'm like, I'm not trying that.
Yeah.
So, good job, buddy.
Yeah, but the joke was the fact that it was these complicated Japanese names and then three good white guy names. And then in the opener, Animal Hamaguchi, Kengo Kimura, Asamo Kido, and Kantaro Hoshina defeated Super Strong Machine, Hiro Saito, Toshi Goto, and Norio Honaga.
Nice.
You know, the
5 times fast.
The Japanese guys that do their podcast talking about American wrestling got it easy. They're like,
right.
It was Tom Zink,
right?
Brad, Tim Horner,
Tom Zenka, the flying whatever, and
Ichiban Hulk Hogan.
That was one of
like-
my favorite parts of this match was the announcers, because it was announced in Japanese. Every 2 minutes we're going NWA WCW, just over and over and over again.
There's
They were
also
stressing it.
there's also a time during the match. I swear to God, and it was probably just the guy was saying something in Japanese, but I don't know if you guys caught it, but it sounded like he kept saying, "You bet on it."
Yes,
You bet on it.
Oh
Did
my
you catch that?
Yes,
Maybe that's his catchphrase.
it might be.
Is this gonna be a good show today?
You bet on it.
bet on
Hiro
it.
Mito, you bet it. Or yeah. But that's the thing too. Like they talk about how back in the day, like Japanese wrestlers would come over here and they just call him like Mr. something or other. It's like, come on. You think fucking some hillbilly commentator is gonna be able to be Kawanta Kamanaki Saito? It's like, Matt, we're just gonna call him Mr. Saito. Or,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
You know
We're
what?
good.
Let's simplify it.
You know what? Black Ninja. That's your name.
Right.
Black Ninja.
Right.
Black Ninja.
Or you go the TNA route and you make him a guy from the Green Lantern and name him Kato, which
Yeah.
made no sense.
All right. Well, I got the tongue twister out of the way, so let's talk about the guys that are in our main event for this show for this week anyway. It is Big Van Vader and Bam Bam Bigelow, who were a great team in Japan, also great rivals in Japan, and two of the best big men ever, against one of the most, to me, underrated tag teams, or I guess not underrated, but just not talked about enough tag teams
Agreed.
of the team of
You
Doom.
didn't have a long.
Butch Reed.
They didn't have a long like run though. I think that's part of it.
Well, but see that I don't know, because really in reality, how long was Demolition's run? 2.5, 3 years?
Right. Doom was
You know what I
about
mean?
the same, about 2 years.
Um,
And then they had.
I mean,
two different careers.
I'm not. I understand what you're saying, Aaron. I wasn't shitting on what you're saying. I'm just saying, like it to me, it just seems like they, you know what I mean?
No, I agree.
And
And
it
it's
was
two
a time
different
when-
careers with that tag team.
And my thing too is like looking at this match, it's like when Bam Bam Bigelow is the least ass kicker in this match, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a rough one. You know what I mean? It's like this is just
Yes.
four guys who can just kick the shit out of anybody.
That's Aaron. That was
Right.
the first thing I noticed. Like in the first 5 minutes, I love Japanese strong style, but this was beyond strong style. They worked stiff.
Yeah.
They were
Oh,
really knocking into
that-
each other.
That first slam that Ron Simmons gave Vader, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I know what this is gonna be.
Yeah. Then when Vader
whole
hit
crowd
Reed
did,
in
too.
the
They were-
corner with the splash, and Reed just fell down. Like Reed was out of the corner a little bit, and Vader collided with him, and Reed just falls down like, oops. And it's like, oh, he hit him hard. He was not holding back one bit. But I'm guessing
That
they
crowd
went to
knew
the
it when he
ring with
slammed
that.
Vader.
Go ahead, Eric.
That crowd knew it when he slammed Vader too, because that whole stadium was like, ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. And that
He
was
was-
the
I
other
think he
great
was the
thing about
champion.
this. That was the great thing I liked about this match. This was pre-Vader and Simmons feud, which they only had 1 or 2 matches together, but this was before Simmons ever got near Vader with the world title. So you got a glimpse into what the future was going to be. So
Speaking on Vader, I never didn't like his look, but this is like my favorite Vader look.
oh yeah, the mask is amazing on him.
The mask and the tights and all that. It's like that's when he looked
Yeah.
the coolest, I thought.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Well, and also just to that about his look. I remember as a kid, right around this time when they first introduced him on WCW TV to us, and they showed the videos, and then he had his little debut match with Tom Zenk. I think it was on one of the Clash of the Champions or something. And it was one of the, WWF always had those larger than life characters, and I'm not knocking WCW. I'm talking about me as a kid. The WWF always had those larger than life characters, And I just remember Vader with that big fucking mastodon helmet and the look, the mask, the look that he had. Like, I remember he was the first guy on WCW, I guess, as a kid, where I just, like, it caught me off guard. And I was just like, whoa, that is different. You know, like, that is really different.
He was leaps
There
and
wasn't
bounds
anybody,
different, right?
and there wasn't anybody like him over here either.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just like there wasn't anybody that was that big that companies will let wrestle that way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was before. If you were a big dude, even if you were good, you had to like scale it back and work as a big. You know what I mean? Like,
right. You had to be
what I'm
Bundy.
saying makes
Everybody
sense.
was basically Bundy.
Yeah. I mean, Bammer was close, but Bammer's a different style than Vader. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Bam Bam
But
would Bam Bam would work down to his opponent too.
Yeah.
Whereas as a big guy, Vader made his opponent work up to him. Bam Bam would just go ahead and, you know, like, and I'm not knocking. I'm just thinking of this as an example. And I'm not knocking this guy because he was great for what he was. But just like 2 nights ago, I was watching an episode of Primetime Wrestling, and the match was Bam Bam Bigelow versus One Man Gang. And this is no knock on One Man Gang, because for being a big monster heel against a guy like Hogan or whatever, he did a great job. But you could tell Bam Bam was slowing down and working down
Oh yeah.
to what
Oh, yeah.
to what the gang could do. You know what I mean?
I agree with that.
Vader would have just went in there and guzzled him.
Yeah, Vader would have just knocked him around, made him all jiggly.
And the thing about One Man Gang, yeah, I know he's not in this match, but he's not gonna have like, you know, the best moves as like a big guy or whatever. But that dude was a bump taker for being as big as he was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He'd do like twinkle toe type bumps and shit like that. It's like, was he a Vader or a Bam Bam? No, but like bumping wise, that dude was a bump machine for being as big as he was.
Yeah, and somebody along the way also taught him about being animated. Like, they were like, you are limited in what you can do, so do the most with what you have. Like, he's one of them guys that, like, during the whole match, he made sure that he made big noises. I am glad that eventually somebody told him to cut his long hair. Because if you've ever seen like footage of him in Mid Atlantic, or when he first comes into Mid South, and he's got that, he looks like if Bob Seger just completely gave up.
Right. Exactly. He has that really bad hairdo, that almost that hairspray band hairdo, but it's well unkempt. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work. That mohawk really set him apart after he did it.
Yeah.
For some reason, he had the same body the whole time, but when he had the long hair, he just looked sloppy.
Yeah.
But when he cut his hair, it's like for some reason it made him not look sloppy. Like it was he was just a big dude then.
Yep. Somebody eventually, I forget which promotion, probably when he got to Mid South, like Bill Watts was like, "Yeah, cut that hair, buddy."
Right.
He was like an unmade bed.
This is not how we do things here.
Yeah. Because I think by the time he winds up in World Class, he's got the mohawk. But yeah, so we weren't talking about One Man Gang. We were talking about Vader, Bigelow, and Doom. And somebody correct me on my time if I'm wrong here, but am I correct that I think Doom had already split up in the U.S.?
A little bit, but there was no story given.
Well, they had turned because Reed had turned on Simmons because I think they lost to the Steiners or some shit, and then Reed turned on him. And the reason I knew that was because when I looked at the show, I was like, oh, this is when Fujinami beat Flair, so Fujinami's gonna come to the U.S. and fight him at the first Super Brawl because Ron and Butch fight at Super Brawl.
Right.
That's their blow off to their feud. So obviously in the commentary, I don't know if they were talking about that. I mean, right. I know it's not to spoil anything. I know at the end Reed attacks Simmons or whatever, but so I don't know if in the commentary they were trying to put over the fact that these guys were contractually obligated or what. Because I did notice that it's not on the video, like their VHS. It's not on there.
Right.
Like on the American release, the match isn't on it. I don't know if it was.
Mentioned,
I don't know if they just. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. You go ahead.
I was just like, when I watched it, I'm like, at first I was like, I wonder if they took that off there because they were like, this doesn't work with our angle. But then when I thought about it, I'm like, WCW didn't care about shit like that.
Not yet, anyway. Right. You mentioned Reed beating down Simmons after the match. I saw it more as just two guys getting frustrated and punching each other in the face for a few seconds. You know what I mean? Because Simmons got in his shots too. So it was like, you really lost. You lost. Yeah, I lost. Okay, well, here, take a shot in the face. Yeah.
I think the translation of the commentators is, I don't think Ron Simmons and Butch Reed will be tag teaming anymore. You bet on it.
You bet
on it.
But just to talk about those two guys for a minute, I think that Ron Simmons had the career that he deserved. He got to be a world champion. He deserved that. Everywhere he worked, he was a main eventer, whether, WWF or whatever. He's one of those guys, WWF hired him, and for the first couple of weeks, they put that silly gimmick on him. But overall, he's one of those guys that they got a guy, and they knew what they had. And they did a great job with him, too. And he deserves mad respect, and he's one of the greats. And Butch Reed, I don't know a lot about it, but it sounds to me a lot like Butch Reed got in his own way as far as push wise.
Everything I've read, he was a flake. He'd either just not like what was going on and leave, or just fucking bumble something and not show up.
Yeah, he was supposed to beat Ricky Steamboat for the Intercontinental title. Yeah. It wasn't supposed to be Honky Tonk Man.
That's like those things. Like I was going to bring that up. There's stories like that in wrestling, and then eventually something comes out, that like kind of debunks it or whatever. But nothing's ever come back and like debunked that. Yeah. Like everybody that's talked about it brings it up. So I'm like, that's true. Like that's a real thing. Like, I don't listen to like a lot of wrestling podcasts, but I do like reading excerpts from it and shit like that, Did you guys read what, like talking about a wrestling myth? Did you guys read what JR said about Macho Man?
No.
Apparently on his podcast.
What did he say?
It was like an Ask Me Anything, and somebody asked Jim Ross about why Randy didn't come back in 2001 or whatever when they bought WCW and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim Ross said he's the reason that he's like, I didn't call him. I didn't want him here.
Wow.
Like he said, that guy was a pain in the ass to work with. Nothing was ever good enough. It was like pulling teeth trying to get him to do anything that wasn't his idea. I didn't want him. He's like, I didn't want that guy in my locker room. Like everybody talks about how it's like, oh, Vince didn't want him there because of all the heat or whatever, and that's part of it. But Jim Ross was the guy that was like, nope. And that was his job at that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. He was the gatekeeper.
Talent acquisition. And he was like, I don't think that guy would be good for our locker room, Vince. Like he said it was brought up and he shot it down. He said, nope. Not going to happen. I just thought that was like, so like shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like for years it was like, oh, Vince. No, it was Jim Ross also being like, nah, I agree with Vince. That guy ain't going to be here.
The greatest thing about that whole Butch Reed with Steamboat thing is how literally up until now that Gunter has gone past it, but literally at that time the longest reign in Intercontinental title history was a what do you want to say, a folly of errors. Like the first thing that happened in the situation, Ricky Steamboat, they just gave him that huge match with Savage at WrestleMania, right?
Right.
It's 2 months later, and he asked Vince, essentially Bonnie Steamboat convinced Ricky to ask Vince for time off. So that pissed Vince off, and Vince is like, well, fuck it, then you're going to drop the belt that I just gave you. So then he decided he wanted him to lose it to Butch Reed. Well, then Butch Reed didn't show up. And Vince was like, he's still going to lose the title. And now I'm going to embarrass him and Butch Reed by making him lose it to the Honky Tonk Man. And that's how we got the Honky Tonk Man as the Intercontinental Champion.
Right.
So
For over a year.
everybody pissed Vince off that day. So the
Right.
Honky Tonk Man got the belt.
And Honky
Like,
probably
he was like,
strolled
who's-
in his office like,
Butch-
hey,
Butch-
boss, what's up?
Yeah.
Like Butch Reed doesn't show up, so then Vince McMahon's like, shit, I just told this guy I'm taking the belt off him tonight. Like, I can't lose face. Who's the most ridiculous person that this guy's not going to want to put over?
Right.
Who's the guy in the locker room that everybody thinks is a joke? Oh, Honky Tonk Man. Like, he wasn't a liked guy by a lot of people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, Hogan liked him, Brett liked him at that time, but, like, there were people that just thought he was, they just didn't like him. He's got an abrasive personality or whatever, and Vince is like, all right, what's worse than making him just lose the belt? We're going to make him lose the belt to the Honky Tonk
Honky
Man.
Tonk Man. Right.
Like I don't think the story, there was a story where when Butch didn't show up, Vince McMahon basically said the next person that walks by him is going to be the guy that loses to that Ricky loses to. I don't believe that.
No.
I don't think Vince is that
He wasn't gonna,
ridiculous.
he wasn't gonna put the belt on fucking Sam Houston.
Yeah. But
You know what? As
I mean,
crazy as Vince is with some of these things, you never can tell.
You're right. That's true.
You know?
That's true. So does anybody want to
Honky wouldn't have had that career if that
Right.
wouldn't have happened.
does
You should
anybody
thank Butch Reed.
yeah. Does anybody want to go through any specific spots or anything that we haven't discussed that happened in this match before we move on to our topic?
The only
I know
thing
we
would
got off the match a little bit, but
The only thing that I would say is I was a little bewildered by how the match ended, because when you got guys like Vader and Bam Bam who could come off the top rope the way that they do, and Japan being known for loving that kind of style, it's like, you know, they love their strong style, but they also like seeing crazy big moves. Seeing it end with just a splash was like, what? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, did they maybe run over time and they told them to go home? Or, you know, because like what match we did last week, we said they went over. You know what I mean? It was 30 minutes. It shouldn't have been that long. This match got 16 minutes at the most, and with entrances, and Vader just splashed Reed in the middle of the ring, and it was like, okay, it's over. And I
Right.
thought it was weird that we didn't see a Vader salt or even a Bam Bam headbutt or anything like that. But it's possible these guys weren't doing those moves maybe in these matches yet. You know, they had them in their arsenal, but weren't pulling them out yet.
Well, I was just gonna say that about midway through the match, I think there was like a little bit of a breakdown of communication, and I think
Yeah.
they started working a little rough, like legit rough with each other.
Oh, yeah.
But so I think that might have had something to do with it. But yeah, it was kind of a weird, wonky, just kind of flat finish.
out of nowhere. Yeah, it came out of nowhere. Like if I wouldn't, you know, when you're watching a match on YouTube or whatever, you can obviously see the timer, you know, so it's like, oh well,
Right.
the finish must be coming up soon. But if I wouldn't have been watching on YouTube or something, and the timer wouldn't have been going on the tape, or on the
You would've been
video,
caught off guard.
yeah, I would have been caught off guard by the fact that was the finish.
Right. I agree. You know, but yeah, these four guys were teeing off on each other. Like I said, after that first 5 minutes, it's like they threw the rule book out the window and just went the hell with it. We're fighting. You know what I mean? So I don't know if somebody said something or did something or didn't hear something, but like Aaron said, they definitely went off the rails a little bit. And then when they finally got back on track, we're just like, okay, time to end it. So,
But overall, if you've never seen the match, I definitely recommend checking it out.
Oh, yeah.
It's easy. It's easy to find on YouTube. But yeah, if you've never seen it, it's definitely, because I don't know. I mean, if I ever saw it, I don't remember having seen it.
I don't. That's what I
So-
said. When I found it, I was like, I didn't know this match existed. So,
That's what's great about YouTube, because if we
Yep.
wouldn't have YouTube, we would have never seen it because it wasn't on the video.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why we had
Right.
never seen it before.
right.
Fun 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it would.
So now that we've discussed our match of the week and the stars involved, all deserved high praise, we're going to talk about a personal top 5 list of each of our own top 5 favorite video games. I can't not say it like Hank Hill, video games, and I promise that none of mine are going to have been released within the last 10 years. But that is what it is. I don't know who wants to start, but
well, I was just gonna say, like Arch was saying, video games. It's a good topic because it's a universal thing, and everybody in our age group. I mean, it was like part of our lives. You know what I mean? I don't play as much as I used to, but like going to Blockbuster and renting the game, and
Right.
because our mom didn't let us buy a lot of games, but
Right.
it just they love. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
but like I wasn't the coolest kid in school. Like, so there were times where it's like my video game was my thing. You know what I mean? But
yeah, and
anyway.
I actually play. Probably the past 2 years, I've played more than I played the 10 years prior because I got a Nintendo Switch. And I have the subscription service where you can play the Nintendo games and the Super Nintendo games and the N64 games. And I found they've ported a lot of older games onto the Switch that you can play on there now. So I actually find myself now, like, other than say the newest Star Wars game comes out for the PS5 or whatever, obviously I'm going to play that because I'm a Star Wars geek. But I find myself playing the old shit on the Switch more than anything else.
Like, unless you're a hardcore gamer, which there's nothing wrong with people being. I have buddies that are, I guess, telling Archie that'll like I'm gonna get off of work, go home, make a steak, and drink 12 beers. This guy's like, I'm gonna go home and play some fucking adventure game that I've never heard of.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But video games, unless, like I said, unless you're like a hardcore gamer, it's kind of like wrestling or music.
Right. You stay in a niche.
The stuff that back in your day, that's what I want to play. You know.
I waited a couple of years back, Sarah and I, my wife, for when they came out with the mini Nintendo Classic because she wanted it so badly so we could play the old games. And then she modded it and got like 500 of the old Nintendo games on there.
Yeah.
And that's all I played for like a year was just sitting there with the old Nintendo and playing Mario or Zelda or whatever because the older games still appeal to me.
I don't know if
I don't want to play an adventure game. I'm a sports game guy or a old school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I don't play a lot of. I play my hockey game on my PS5, but hockey's really the only pro sport that I'm into. So I don't play Madden. I don't play NBA. I don't play any of that stuff. I don't even know if Madden's still a thing, but
it is. I was telling Aaron that before he came back that I'm a sports game guy. I like the wrestling games, golf, baseball, football, basketball. But it's not the same game. Like Madden used to allow you to actually just play the football game. You just started the game and went into a game. Pick your team and go ahead and another team. Now it's set your lineup, hire a new head coach, hire the water boy.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't want to be a coach. I didn't want to be the owner. I want to play football.
I'm not a big. I don't play a lot of football games or anything, but
right.
You know what I think? You know what I think caused that?
Probably fantasy football.
Like caused that trend that you're talking about
right.
is that when fantasy sports became a thing.
Yeah. Now they want to give you the whole field.
And now people can go online and play it. So it's like now I'm going to build my team and I'm going to beat this other guy and talk shit to some little 12-year-old kid in Belgium.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that kid's going to talk shit to you because he's better at it than you are.
Right. So, all right. Well, I'll go first with my first one. My number 5. I actually have them numbered from 1 through 5 this week. And number 5, I have GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64, the James Bond game. I was never a big James Bond fan up until this game and movie came out. And I can remember being 12 years old when it came out, and me and my dad playing it all day, every day, even until the late night hours, even though I had school the next day, until we beat it. You know what I mean? It was the first person shooter I ever really got into.
That's what I was about to say. That game isn't even so much good because it's a James Bond game. That's not why it became such a thing. And another game on my list that we'll get to eventually is my jam sandwich as far as that goes. But it's the aspect of, like you said, staying up all night with a buddy or a brother or family member, somebody playing that game against each other.
Right.
It's just, it's exciting. It was exciting. It was an exciting thing. And
right.
I suck at first person games. Like, I suck at them.
I do too. But for some reason, GoldenEye made you good at it.
Like, if I can't see my character, I can't do it. I don't know why that is.
I'm the same way.
Nate would want me to play Halo with him or whatever. We'd play Halo, and he'd just fucking smoke me the entire time. And I'm just like, I'm not having fun playing this. Like,
right.
And Nate wasn't a big brother that let you win. Like, he didn't even ever let me be Mario. Every fucking time it has to be Luigi. Jesus Christ. Let me be Mario.
That's funny.
Like, nope, I'm Mario. I'm older and bigger. Like, when you realize Mario's smaller than Luigi, right?
It's a me, Mario.
It's a not me. I'm never Mario. But no, GoldenEye, it was a good looking game. Or GoldenEye was a good looking game too. I mean,
the graphics were
great. Yeah, the 64 was crazy. It was a crazy fucking system.
Yep. The one thing I remember about every N64 game was when you saw it, your exact words, they're never going to make graphics better than this.
Yeah.
Fast forward 30 years later, and the graphics are just like watching television.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that too. Like, we jumped from the SNES to the N64. And yeah, like you said, like you're pretty much like as a kid, your jaw dropped. Like, I can't believe how good this looks.
And now, like, kids now look at it and be not so much more now because kids are getting more into like nostalgic shit or whatever. But there'd be times when people are like, that game looks like shit. Why are you playing that? And it's like, it's cool, man. You don't realize what it was like.
Right. We grew up with 8, 16, and then jumped to 64 graphics. We were ahead of the game at 64.
I remember when my son was like 8 years old, and by that time at least the PS3 was out. So I'm talking to him about older games. He's playing games on his PS3 or whatever, and he's thinking that the older games weren't as fun. He's thinking they didn't look as good, which they didn't. But his biggest thing was they weren't as fun and they weren't as challenging. So then I was like, ha, here's Mega Man. Beat Mega Man and tell me they're not challenging, because Mega Man will make you throw your fucking controller.
Right. Beat Paper Mario. Beat Paper Mario and tell me again that these games are challenging.
Right. Yeah.
Back in the day, people be like, not people like me, I'd even say, like, this fucking game is rigged.
Yeah.
This is rigged.
You can't win this shit.
There's no way you can make that jump.
Yeah. And then your friend would come over and make the jump. Right. You sucked, right.
The only video games that were ever rigged were arcade games. Those are rigged because they wanted people to keep plunking quarters into it. But anyway.
Well, Aaron, what's your number 5?
Well, I put my number 1 as my number 1 and just kind of put the other ones on the list. I wasn't as professional as you guys, but Mario 3. Start with that.
Oh, you just took it off my list. Super Mario 3. Super Mario Brothers 3 is number 2 on my list of favorite video games.
I had it as an honorable mention. So
well, if you want to wait, I can talk about my honorable mention.
No, you can talk about Mario. We'll do honorable mentions when we're done.
Okay, I only have one, but it was just, I think, the best Mario game, and it was super fun. And everybody's talking about wanting to do the whistle. It's like, I didn't want to do the whistle. I want to beat this fucking thing. You know what I mean?
Aaron, the first time I beat the game, I didn't know the whistle existed. So it took me like to go back and play it to know, oh, there's something to warp. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't know what the whistle was.
And it looked good. And it
Right.
was the first one where they kind of let humor get involved in it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just think it's a aesthetically pleasing, fun game.
And it had all the fun suits. It was the first time you had all the fun suits that you could wear.
Right.
Yeah, like
It
when you could
wasn't
turn into like
just-
a flying raccoon or whatever.
Yeah.
That shit was
Where you-
great.
Yeah.
the one where you could turn into stone for a minute, so the opponent
Yeah,
would
the
just walk
Koopa
past
couldn't
you.
get you.
Yeah,
Good shit.
or jump into a boot and step on people.
yeah.
With his big wind-up boot, you know, or a
But-
frog.
It's also funny. Like if you guys think about it, like video games now, like they'll tell you, oh, this game is 23. Like if you look at the playtime for it, it's like 23 hours. Take your time in it. Back in our day, a video game was like, if you slow down, we're gonna fucking scroll you off the screen. We'll throw you into a
Right.
fucking pit.
Right, you're
Like if
falling.
you don't keep
Right.
up, you're fucking dead.
Right. You put
Now
me,
they're like, oh,
Mario.
take your time. Take your time. This one was like, we're gonna scroll this screen, and if you don't keep up, we're throwing you in a fucking pit. Cocksucker.
Even when the screen didn't scroll, Aaron, you couldn't put Mario in a corner somewhere and get up and go walk away if you didn't have a pause feature. He'd be dead by the time he came back.
Yeah, because time would
They-
run out.
Right. So if you didn't pause that game, you were dead where you stood.
And the other thing, really quick, I want to say about Mario while it's on my mind is you guys tell me if you agree with me. Although I like some of them, I don't think that once video games got quote unquote, where Mario games got quote unquote 3D, that they were ever as good as the side scrolling Mario games.
I agree.
When I
Mario
think-
World, the one that came out for 64, the first one, was fantastic. But nothing compares to the original Nintendo and the Super Nintendo.
That's the best. I don't know what you call it. Like side.
Side
What'd you call it,
scrolling, yeah.
Nate?
Side
Yeah,
scrolling.
side. That's the best side scrolling game,
Without a doubt.
in my opinion.
Well,
The flying fish were my biggest fucking Achilles heel.
my biggest Achilles heel was any level with ice. Slipping and a sliding off to my death.
Believe it or not,
And that's a dick. That's a dick move too. It's like we're gonna push you off if you don't keep up, but then we're gonna hit you in a situation where you get pushed back.
Right. All
Yeah,
right,
Mario
number
3.
5.
Great game.
My number 5, I guess, kind of speaks to the original thing of what this podcast is. Number 5 on my list, WWF No Mercy.
That was my
You
number
took my
one.
number.
You
You took mine.
you took my number one. Nicely done, sir.
My number
Bet-
one, but it's on my list.
Best wrestling
The
game
greatest
ever.
wrestling ever. You can't beat it.
It's such a
could do-
good game that there are still games trying to copy it. Like AEW just made their game with the same engine that No Mercy worked on.
And it
It's not
wasn't
as
even
good. No, it's not as good, but they tried.
That was a horrible game.
Toilet.
Like
Toilet
to this
game.
to this day, sometimes I'll just be walking around and be like, dig diggity dog.
Yeah, they give you no, right?
It's
Oh,
also
man.
my favorite. It's also my favorite prank ever. It's the greatest prank I've ever done in my entire life,
Okay.
and I did it to my brother.
What did you do to you, Nate?
You know what it is?
Go ahead and tell them.
I had a day off of work, and I got on Nate's N64 because you didn't need passwords and shit to get on somebody's system back in the day.
Nope.
And
Nope.
I took the time to take every single wrestler on his game and give them afros.
Oh
Like
my god.
every single Vince McMahon, Billy Gunn, Viscera, all
Oh
of
my
them,
God.
Godfather. I even gave one to Stone Cold. They all had afros, and he turned on his game and was like, "What the fuck?"
He's like,
Everybody's got an
dong.
afro. God damn it! Now I got to go back and change them all back.
The one
then-
thing that used to anger me about that game, I don't know if you guys had that copy or not, the glitch that would happen when you got to a certain point in the game, or you guys didn't have that copy, because there were some copies that didn't glitch and some that did.
No, I never had a glitch in mine.
If you bought the Godfather's hoe from the marketplace, because there was a marketplace on the game, if you bought the hoe after she would come out with Godfather one time, whole game would glitch and you'd lose everything you had.
Oof.
Yeah,
That's an STD,
That's what happens when you start dealing with the hose.
right. When you buy a hoe, exactly.
And the other great thing is it had that great opening video,
Yeah,
but it would play the wrestlers on the video how you designed them in the game.
yep.
So when he plugged it in, like Steve Austin's giving the finger and stunning Vince, and everybody has afros.
Afros.
And my second favorite story to come out of No Mercy is funny when Nate was talking about his boy with the games. Nate gave him his 64. Excuse me, and Sean would play the No Mercy game. And, No Mercy, Godfather would come out and offer you the hose, and you'd have to decide if you wanted to take them. It's funny, the innocence of children, because Sean would be like, Godfather keeps coming out and asking me if I want to go on dates with his lady friends or whatever. He's offering me dates with his girlfriends. I keep taking the dates.
I keep taking the dates. You keep having the sex with hookers. Okay. Keep taking the dates.
Oh my
Thinking
God.
if it was his mind and it was real, Godfather would come out and be like, yo, playa, you want to go on a date with her? Like, sure. I'll take her to a movie and get some ice cream.
I'm out here renting dates nationwide.
My favorite story about this game was we used to do weekly tournaments of No Mercy, and it would always come down to me and somebody else, or me, and I was always somewhere in the finals. And my friends realized that if you're having a one-on-one match, but you plug in the other two controllers, and you have 4 people in the game, you could bring out managers. So here I am in the finals trying to win, and this is the last we're going to be playing the game for a little while. They bring out 2 managers and they just start throwing a bunch of chairs in the ring, like ECW style, and they're just trying to get us to get disqualified to end the game. And they did it for 15 minutes straight. They can't get us to stop the game. And then finally, my oldest friend walks up to the wall and just goes, "Yeah, you fuckers have won enough." And I'm like, "Damn it." We never played No Mercy with each other after that.
No Mercy is just a great fucking game.
It was one of the first games you could create your character. You could create whoever you wanted on it. You had a crazy roster. The storyline was fantastic because it went in different arcs. If you lost one match, you went a different way.
Yeah, there's no holes in it at all, in my opinion.
No, great game.
Next.
My next one, number 4, is Grand Theft Auto 3 for the PlayStation 2. I never played part 1 or 2 before this. But my friends were all raving about it. You got to play it. You got to play it. You got to play it. So I went out and I got it. And I played this game for 4.5 months before I finally beat it. Only to find out that they switched the ending.
I just want to say, while it's on my mind, if they would have left GTA like 1 and 2, it never would have became the franchise it was.
No,
because 1 and 2 had that where you were looking over the.
Yeah, it was an overview.
Yeah, an overview kind of thing. It wasn't the 3D down in the street thing. And if they wouldn't have changed that franchise never would have reached the heights that it did.
I agree. I agree. But I think that was because the first two were on PlayStation 1 and they knew they couldn't get the graphics they wanted. But yeah, when they switched it over, because I played 1 and 2 afterwards, and I was like, nope, not enjoying this. But everything from running over the hookers, again, there's another hoe in the game. There's hoes in every game we play, ladies and gentlemen. Running over the hookers.
Was GTA 3 the one where they started calling it hot coffee, or was that 4?
That was 4.
4. Okay. You want to go
Yeah.
get some hot coffee?
Hot
That
coffee.
was the code word for fuck a prostitute.
Right. Exactly.
Is 3 the one where you're the black kid?
No, that's San Andreas. 3 is the one where you're the original guy, Tommy Vercetti, in New York.
Where he doesn't even talk or anything? Like, he doesn't even have any dialogue?
Nope.
They're just
no
telling him to do
whatsoever.
shit and he's just staring at them?
Yep. Still to this day, guys, when one of us are, like, if I'm dead tired or one of my buddies is dead tired, we'll look at each other and do the opening line of the video game, which is, man, brother, my hands are all jacked up. You're going to have to drive us because we don't want to drive. It's our way of telling each other, take the wheel of the car. I want to get home.
Those games are so goddamn funny.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's so fucking funny. Those when so you said it was San Andreas where you're the black guy.
Yeah.
I played that one. Sorry, and sometimes I get crossed up with what version this was or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I was playing that one, and yeah, you could like pick your radio stations or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I just randomly put it on like a country channel, like a country station, and it's just these 4 gangbangers sitting in their car, and they're like, "Yeah, we gotta smoke this motherfucker," and they're talking all this shit. And in the background, it's just Queen of Hearts by Juice Newton.
That is funny.
I'm sitting in a room by myself, and I'm like, this is the fucking funniest thing I've ever seen.
Now you see, Aaron, if back then there would have been Twitch streams, you probably would have been the most popular because you would have been making them do things they weren't supposed to do.
Like, we gotta smoke this motherfucker, playing with the Queen of Hearts.
All right, Aaron, you're up next.
That's so funny. We just did No Mercy, so I can't do that one. I guess I'll put my other wrestling game. Is WCW versus the World.
The originator. That is the one that started the No Mercy, WrestleMania, Revenge, all of those games. THQ's first one.
And it had like it wasn't even originally a WCW game. It was a Japanese import, and they just plugged in WCW guys into it.
Yep.
But it would have the knockoff like Mr. Fuji and the knockoff this guy and the knockoff that guy. They just have like different names or whatever, and you could change them if you wanted to. And it was just a fun fucking game, and it had such a deep, like, I don't know, I even remember how many fucking characters were on it, but it was like
my favorite was that
people on this.
I didn't realize it until like a month after I had the game. Somebody, like, they had a guy named Tarzan Boy, but I kept looking at the name and I'm like, that doesn't look like a guy who's Tarzan. And then one of my buddies was like, idiot, that's Terry Funk. I'm like, why the hell did they name him Tarzan Boy then? You know what I mean? It made no sense. Jumbo Tsunami instead of Jumbo Fujinami. The names were correct. I never understood something though. The unlockable characters were Glacier and Karate Fighting Muhammad Ali. It never made any sense. That's my only knock. You know what I mean? But it was still a great game.
Listen, I'm Team Aki Man, so
yeah, Aki Man was the nuts on that game.
I think then they put him on every one of them because it was Aki was the company that made it or whatever. So all the games had all the games had Aki Man on them.
On the WWF one, you could create him, but he wasn't in the game as a character.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember. It's been
but
so
in
long
the
since I
WCW
played
one,
it.
he was. He had the best moveset. He had the best moveset too. That's what I never understood. He was like the best. If I wanted to beat Hulk Hogan for the world title in Revenge, I had to pick Akiman.
Yeah.
You know?
Akiman Ichiban.
Japan.
No, World Tour was definitely a great game for the 64. And the import version, Aaron, I played that once, and that one actually had better unlockables in it because you could unlock Rick Steiner, the Giant, and Jeff Jarrett in it. So I never understood why they just didn't do that with the WCW version.
Weird.
Yeah,
It's probably some crazy stupid licensing thing. You know how it is.
probably.
Like, there's probably something in some piece of paper in some contract somewhere that said they could only use this person or only use that person or whatever.
Right.
When that game came out, when WCW versus the World came out, there were like a few guys over here that tried to sue because they were like, "You're using my fucking likeness and not even paying me." Like the one I remember the most is Fuji.
Didn't they have an
tried to
Abdullah
sue
the
him.
Butcher and
Yep.
Abdullah the Butcher in that
They had
game
everybody. They had everybody.
They had Brody, they had
Everybody.
Abdullah. So they knew what they were doing. Changed the name slightly so no one will bitch.
The next one on my list may or may not be something either. I don't think Aaron doesn't usually play RPG games, so you probably haven't played it, but it's my second favorite RPG game of all time. My first one is the one that's on number 1 on my list. Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind.
I've heard great things about it. I've never played it.
Don't even know anything about it.
That's fine. I mean, it's just of all the RPGs I've ever played, and that includes anything that's been in like the newer. Because that's something I'll say about what you guys were talking about, sports games.
Right.
That's one of the things where I find myself not playing RPGs as much as I used to because they way overcomplicate shit now. Like, because the games have gotten so much richer and the graphics and the worlds can be so much bigger, it's almost like they overcomplicate things too much. Like as far as your building your character and blah 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 blah. But Morrowind was for the 360, and it's an RPG that has a gigantic world, a great story. There's so many sides. Like you could play that game for months and not cover everything in it. So it's just a great game with a great world to play in. And like I said, I knew Aaron probably hadn't ever played it, but it's my my numero cuatro on my list.
When I try to play games like that, two things come to my mind when I start playing them. For one, I have ADHD. Okay. I used to take pills for it when I was a kid. So something like that, I have a hard time with. And two, I'm like, I'm not smart enough to play this. Like, I don't know what's happening. Like, just tell me where to go and who to shoot, and I'll do that. But don't make me figure it out. That's like any game where you gotta like sneak around. I can't do that shit. Like Assassin's Creed, or what's that one? Metal Snake or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, where you gotta like fucking sneak up, and when you think you're about to do it, and then it's like, Bork! And you're like, oh shit! And they just like slit your throat. It's like, god damn it! And I just get mad and quit. I'm like, I just spent $30 on this.
See, I could play an Assassin's Creed
I
because
can't even get out of the warehouse.
But there's certain games like that Elder Scroll. I tried to play it. There's another one called Fallout. Where you have to look at the text that's going on and then hit the button accordingly in order to do what they want you to do. It's like a puzzle game. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, to throw the quarter at the cup, please press X and Y at the same time. It's like, what? And then by the time I learned it, 3 hours went by, and I'm like, okay, I'm giving this game back. I don't want to even look at it anymore. You know what I mean? So I'm with Aaron on that. I can't get into games where they require that much thought.
Yeah, and like I said, the newer ones, the newer RPG games that have come out probably since Morrowind. Yeah, the fourth Elder Scrolls, that the sequel to Morrowind, I couldn't get into that just because like you guys are kind of describing, it's just too much. There's too much. I don't mind a big game with a big story and challenges and stuff, but God, don't make it so fucking complicated. I'm here to have fun.
Right. I'm here to escape reality, not make it worse.
Yeah.
No, it's like this is my job.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the fuck, I gotta do tasks and chores. But anyway, speaking of fun, we don't have to do it on the show, but Nate, and Arch, after we're done, if you guys want to watch a video that I think is funny as hell, would you guys mind doing that?
Yeah, not a problem.
Right. We don't have to watch it on the show because it's got music and shit. And I know it's a pain in the ass, Nate, but it's funny. But anyway, like I'm not knocking the RPG games or whatever. It's just not my bag. Especially the ones where you got like multiple characters. What's that one gonna do? It's like, and then they like jump up a couple spots and and you're like, 4 plus 4. It's like I don't know what's happening.
Right.
What's going on?
Right.
Like Final Fantasy. I don't know what's happening in this game.
I was just about to say that. I was never a fan of the Final Fantasy. I never understood why it went from Final Fantasy 1 to Final Fantasy 7. Like, where were the other 6? You know?
There's like 86 versions of it.
Right, but not all in order. It just made no sense. So now, to show my age, my number 3 on my list is the original Super Mario Brothers for Nintendo. We talked about Part 3, and it is definitely the best of the titles. But man, I still play Super Mario Brothers. If they had it as an app on my phone, I'd play it. You know, that's how.
You would never find anybody our age that literally could not hum the entire soundtrack to the first Mario Brothers game. I mean, granted, there's only like 3 songs, but you know, you know that when you go into this, you know that when you go underground, it's gonna go.
But
see, that's the tits jam off of it.
Oh yeah, right. When I'm running out, like if I'm in a rush to do something, my wife will laugh at where the market, and we gotta get stuck quickly and be somewhere. I'll literally go no, because I'm rushing through. You know, and it's like, okay, honey, stop. We're not. There's no timer above your head. Stop it. You know,
like how has no rap artist ever sampled?
Right.
That's never been used that I know of. But no, it's a fun ass game. It's the one that I don't want to say it. It's the fucking OG of video games.
It had to start a lot of us,
If you wouldn't have Super Mario Brothers, if that cartridge of Super Mario Brothers / Duck Hunt would have never came to fucking the States, the most we ever had was Atari, and it would have just petered out. People wouldn't be playing video games today if it wasn't for Mario.
I agree. You're up next, Aaron.
My next one is the reason I asked if computer games were still considered video games, and it is the OG original Sim City. I would just get lost playing that fucking game.
I thought you were going to pick Oregon Trail. No,
I played the shit out of that in school, but yeah, the original Sim City was super fucking fun.
Oh yeah.
It didn't. I don't want to say like the Sim Cities later on became more like integral and whatever. It was just a simple game that didn't try to overcomplicate it, but still you had to think about it, you know, like plotting and doing this, that, and like zoning and all that. But it was a simple game and it was just fun, and you could just lose hours playing it.
And you were talking about something like funny things in games earlier. Funny thing about Sim City is like when shit would go south. Like all of a sudden, like the southeast corner of town is on fire or whatever. It's just like, oh my god.
Like, you know, like things are going good. They're like, you're doing great, Mayor. and then it's just an explosion. And you're like, holy shit! I just lost 40 citizens and an entire 2 city block.
Yeah,
Or you just be
that's
sitting there.
some calamity.
Day would be
Just
going.
fucking a tornado comes through.
Yeah,
God
day
damn
would be
it.
going good. And it'd be a big, like, man, taxes are up. I'm doing good. I'm like a fat cat, and then all of a sudden, tornado comes through, and your fucking goddamn popularity goes down by like 82%, and then they run you out of town. That was my other favorite thing. It'd be like the citizens have ran you out of town.
You're no longer welcome in the town you created.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
that's
was
good
good.
shit.
You reminded me of a game that I used to play for the original Nintendo called Vegas Stakes. And in the game, you'd be like gambling, and then somebody would come up to you and go, "I'm down on my luck. Could you maybe help me with $20 so I can get some gas?" And if you gave them the 20, either you'd hear on the news that they stole your wallet, or they'd come back and tell you, "I gambled your 20 and I won $10,000. Here's $1,000." But if you went broke in the game, the casino would come and escort you out. Like they knew you couldn't get any more money. You weren't gonna reload. Sir, you'll have to be leaving now. And then they show you on the side of the road with your pockets out, and you just say "bad luck" over your forehead.
You've been escorted out, broke, drunk, and disheveled.
Right. So hearing the citizens that voted you out of the town made me think of that.
But yeah, I loved when they just the citizens have ran you out of town. It was good shit.
The next one on my list, Aaron brought it up earlier. This one is on my list not because of anything having to do, honestly, with the story or the game, like the single player game itself, because I honestly was never a huge fan of it. But I got addicted to the multiplayer on the first Halo.
Okay.
I would play whoever, whether like Aaron said, where I wouldn't let him win or whatever. Like whoever's sitting around, like my 5-year-old daughter. Hey, come over here. We're gonna play some Halo. Like I loved the multiplayer of that game, the multiplayer feature of that game so much. It was just, and it's the best because I am also not a big first person shooter guy. I'm not a Call of Duty guy. I'm not big on those type of games. But the multiplayer for the first Halo was the shit. So
No, I agree. I have friends who still play it. Like Aaron said, when he would try to play games with you, he'd like rage quit. I'm the same way. I can't play first person shooters, but I have buddies who still play Destiny and Halo till this day. And the new gun came out. I'm like, the game is still around. They're like, yeah, the new update came out. I'm like, wow, talk about getting everything for your money. Because
right, no shit.
there are some games you can give $60 on them, and it's like they're obsolete a week later. This game has been going for 3 years strong, the newest version. So
That fucking Halo game, I'd fucking play it with other people that are Nate too. I don't know why I always get roped into playing it, but they'd fucking like start right away. And fucking I get clipped like right away, and then you're gonna fucking respawn or whatever, and you respawn, and like the minute you respawn, like here comes Nate, like puts
Yep.
one of those sticky bombs on me, and I blow up again. I'm like,
Nate knew exactly where you were going to
if
respawn.
I remember right, the game would stick it in your face and tell you how many times you respawned.
Yep.
Yes. Pretty much you died this many times, loser.
Yeah, you suck. You respawned 47 times, you piece of shit. You respawned more times than Jerry Lawler won the USWA Heavyweight Championship.
Oh, God, that's a lot.
That game was so goddamn frustrating.
Well, Archie, what you got left? How many you got left?
I have my last one because you took No Mercy from me, and it's another wrestling game. For PS2, SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain. It is a game that I went through hell and back to find because they were sold out in my area, so I had to go all the way down to South Jersey, which is about an hour and a half ride to find it. But when I finally did, I played that game for about 3 years solid. I didn't care about any of the new ones that were coming out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Rock on the cover, right?
Yep, rock on the cover. You could do multiple finishers now. More storyline. You could climb the fist and jump off of it on the SmackDown Tron.
You could form a faction.
Yes, you could form a faction. They released
that game because. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
There's just like, it's funny because like they would use like wrestling jargon in it or whatever. So you'd just be like showing up, and like Taz would show up in the fucking parking lot and be like, you'd be like Steve Austin, and Taz would show up in the parking lot and be like, Funaki and Johnny Stamboli want to form a faction with you. Are you interested?
Right. You in, brother?
No.
They had to fake.
No.
They had to fake Taz's lingo. You in, brother? And it'd be like, no. But the funny part is, the minute you would say no, they'd attack you. So you were damned if you do and damned if you don't with them. You couldn't get away from whoever the bad guys were. Like if they were B-list players, you still had to play against them afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, Here Comes the Pain also was one of the first ones that upped the Create a Wrestler. They call it suites now. You know how you could do the faces and the clothing and everything like that.
Yeah.
So it just made for the game to be better. If you didn't have Rob Van Dam in the game and you thought you were good at making Rob Van Dam, well, then you could have Rob Van Dam in the game. So.
And I'll just say right now before Aaron goes next, just because you brought up a wrestling game, Archie. One of my honorable mentions is it's actually a game for your phone. It's Wrestling Empire.
I've heard you guys talk about it before. I haven't downloaded it yet.
Oh, you should. I play it every day.
Wrestling Empire is fantastic.
I heard the roster is pretty deep on it and things like that.
I don't play the matches on it. I just play the Booker,
right.
The Booker's, what do you want to say? The Booker game or whatever. But It's so much fun. You have literally like a recreation of pretty much every wrestler. And there's like 9 different federations, and there's people jump over to this federation or that federation. And I mean, you just have to get into it to experience it, folks. But it's a fantastic game, Wrestling Empire, if you get a chance to check it
out. I definitely will be checking it out too. All right, Aaron, you're up.
Can we pause a minute? I gotta.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so, excuse me, my number one, and it's my favorite video game of all time, and it's actually my favorite series of video games ever, but I'm gonna go with this particular one, is Red Dead Redemption 2. I think it's, not to sound nerdy or whatever, but I think it's one of the most aesthetically pleasing looking games, and it's so in depth and integral, and there's so much different shit in it, and it's a good story, and you could just get fucking lost in that goddamn thing. And
you said the second one, right? 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like 1 too. Like I like the first one. I'm not a big fan of Red Dead Revolver, but both the Red Deads are great, but the second one's the best one. It's my favorite video game of all time.
No, yeah, I was gonna say I really enjoy those games too.
I agree.
Like, there's times where I'll pick that game up on like a Sunday because we live in a small town, so on Sundays pretty much there's nothing to do, and I'll just ride around. Like, I'll do good shit in the day, like I'll help people and stuff, but like at night I'll leave camp and I'll ride around on my horse, and then I'll just like lasso people that are out just trying to mind their own business, see all their money. Like during the day, I'm the nicest guy in the world. I'll help anybody.
But at night, he calls himself the Midnight Rider.
Like I just stabbed somebody. And then I'm like, but
That's funny.
no, it's just you can just do whatever you want in that fucking game, and I don't know. It's a great, like I said, it's a great story, and it's just a fun fucking game that you can just get lost in my opinion. I can get lost in that game more than I can get lost in like a Grand Theft Auto. I just enjoy
Well,
it so
see,
much.
that's what I was gonna say. That's what I love about the Red Dead Redemption series. It's like Grand Theft Auto, but in cowboy times. You know what I mean? Because you could steal somebody's horse. Like you said, you could lasso somebody. You could pick a fight with somebody. It allows you to just walk around and do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And
like a free time.
it's got a lot of crazy shit in it, but it also makes me think about nowadays, like we were talking about, like when you saw like the 64, we were just all like, oh my god, look at this thing. Imagine what it was like for those people. You know what I mean? Like life used to probably be insane. Like the first time somebody blew something up. Imagine that. Like,
Holy shit!
like everything I feel everything for the most part has been discovered through accident. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the first thing that blew up was an accident. And they're like, holy shit, like what the fuck was that? And then somebody was like, well, we put this thing with that thing and this thing with that thing, so that's probably what caused it. And then when they figure it out, they're like, oh, I figured it out. Then they try it and they blow something else up, and then they bring everybody around. It's what I might be getting a little out of it, but do you get what I'm saying? Like, anyway, that's kind of like what that game does. Like these characters, like John Marston and Arthur, they're kind of like Forrest Gump. Like they're just going along the story, and they just keep encountering these people that have these different things. Like the one where the guy's trying to learn how to fly, and like he's in a blimp now, and he's or not a blimp, but he's like in a hot air balloon now, and he's doing this and he's doing that. These characters are just like cowboys that are just being in like how do I say it? Like engrossed in this time that's changing for them, and it's just a fun fucking game, and the stories are good. Like, and when you think shit's going good, it's kind of like Sim City, where it's like shit's going good now. We're gonna make it, and then all of a sudden you're now on a fucking island because your boat capsized or whatever. It's just a great fucking story. I love the fucking games. I might have rambled a little too much about it.
Well, that's
Sorry.
all right.
No, not
I
at
do
all.
too, and I think one of the reasons it appeals to me is like I was talking about with the RPG games that I used to like. Like you said, you have this big open world where you can do so many things and encounter so many different characters.
Right. You basically, if you are bored and just want to go walk around in that area or in another area or whatever, like there was an episode, I don't know if you guys watched The Big Bang Theory, but
I love that show.
Sheldon was having a bad day. Leonard comes home and he's like, "What are you doing?" I was just having a bad day, so I went for a walk. He's like, "Sheldon, you're playing Red Dead Redemption 2." She's like, "Yeah, I just wanted to walk around the old west." You know what I mean? So,
He's like, I'm
you
so
know,
stressed. I need a drink. And he
I need
goes
a
into like
drink,
the
right?
saloon and he gets a drink.
Right, right. So it
It's
offered him
fucking
an
great.
escape. Right, it offered him an
And
escape.
I've beat it. I've beat it multiple times. And then I downloaded it a while back, and I'm like, I'm gonna play this fucking game again. And 90% of the time when I turn it on and play it, I ain't doing the fucking missions and like the side characters. Like there's a side character that like he bets you like money because he's a better shooter than you. He's the greatest shooter in Mexico, and he's here now. and he wants you to shoot bottles off of rocks or whatever,
Right.
and says, I'll bet you the money to do it. So I just looked at him and just shot him in the face and took the money.
That's funny. Oh my God, Aaron. Oh my God.
Like, I'm the biggest asshole in Red Dead Redemption.
Well, my number one is also, it's your number one video game when, like you guys were talking about, you play it over and over and over and
Yep.
over again.
Yep.
And this game was for the original Xbox. And I think on my original Xbox, which I still have around here somewhere, I probably played it easily 10 times. And then they re-released it for the Nintendo Switch. And I've played it two and a half. I'm halfway through another play on it of that game. And it goes back to my two biggest fandoms are wrestling and Star Wars. And it's a Star Wars game, and it is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Good game.
You can the thing that appealed to me so much about it when it first came out, being a Star Wars geek, was the way you play the game. As the game goes on, your light side or dark side, so that can have an outcome on the end of the story. So you can be more Jedi or more Sith. So then so you play it the first time you play it like straight laced, like, how am I going to wind up? We'll see how I wind up. Then the next time you play, you're like, I'm just going to be a fucking bastard, evil ass, like Palpatine level villain this time. Yes.
It's more fun to be the bad guy.
Yeah, I've played that game so many times, and it is without a doubt my favorite video game of all time. I think just because, again, it goes back to how big of a Star Wars fan I am, and just the way you can play and the different missions and the characters, and depending on how you act, the other characters respond to you in kind. Like you may find that this guy is your ally this playthrough because he's more evil and you're more evil, or this time you're more good, so this character's more on your side. And it's just, like I said, for me personally, that's my favorite video game of all time.
I'll make you a statement, Nate. I don't think there's a Star Wars game that's come out dating back to even like the old Nintendo that I've ever disliked. You know what I mean? There were the old arcade games where you got to fly in a TIE fighter. You know what I mean? The ones that came out for 64. Maybe the pod racing one wasn't really that great because it was just racing.
Yeah.
But the storyline Star Wars games are always great to just sit there and play. You know what I mean? Play through.
And now in the modern era of Star Wars, now the games actually intertwine with the movies and the TV shows and stuff.
Right.
So when you're playing a game, it literally is part of the story. Like the video they talk about all the time now, the characters that are in the video games, sometimes those characters show up in the TV shows and stuff now.
Right.
So yeah, but yeah, Knights of the Old Republic, numero uno.
All right. Well, I'm going to get into my honorable mentions real quick. I only have 3, but I'm going to do them quickly. Tiger Woods PGA Tour for any of the systems, really, even to today's date. The graphics only got better. There's a storyline involved where you get, your deals and, a shoe deal and everything like that. It really, for a sports game, it allows you to just, have fun and feel what it's like to be a golfer. So I've always liked the Tiger Woods games. Madden, if you're a football fan, again, the graphics only kept getting better with Madden. It's like watching a Monday Night Football game now when you do actually get to play a game as opposed to hiring the water boy and setting up the athletic table. And finally, an old game for Sega, NBA Jam. If you're a basketball fan or a cartoony video game fan, NBA Jam was definitely the go-to for me when it came to having fun.
You don't even have to be a basketball fan to like that game. You just got like arcade games.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And kind of along the lines you were saying, one of my honorable mentions, obviously I kind of mentioned it earlier, are the EA NHL games.
Right.
those usually aren't as, like you were saying about having to, like, on the NHL games, they'll propose trades and different things like that, but you don't have to like get so integral about it. And then
Right.
another series that I'll give an honorable mention to, because they're all really good, is the Castlevania games.
Very good games, yes. Yes. And incidentally, one of my favorite NHL games, going back to the 64, was NHL, I think it was 98 for the Nintendo 64. Because
Yeah.
it had the fighting, it had the storyline of you playing through a season, and it actually allowed you to, enjoy a hockey game. So I'm a fan of hockey too. I'll play any sports game once, and if I like it, then I gotta buy it. So
Yeah.
but Castlevania, definitely a good storyline driven game. I know they re-released it not that long ago. I want to say a couple of years back. They have a newer one, and it's mind blowing how different they've made the game.
Yeah, it is. It is. I was disappointed in the TV series, though.
I haven't watched it yet. Is it that bad?
I'm an anime guy. I like anime,
Right.
and
Right.
the Castlevania TV series they made for Netflix is anime style. I just could not get into it. It's either they tried too hard or didn't try enough. I can't tell, but it's just
Right.
it didn't satisfy me at all.
Understandable.
Only 2 honorable mentions, and you guys shit on one of them earlier. Just saying.
We
I
did?
actually the first Grand Theft Auto. I would sit and just play that game for hours. I don't know
I
why.
didn't shit
Just
on it.
driving
It just
around that-
wasn't.
Driving around that city, jumping over the bridge, doing all your thing, answering the payphone, and some guy like, "I need you to go do this." See, it's like it was just fun. It was campy and silly, and I just enjoyed it. And like,
See, here's
I thought
the
it was
thing.
a fun fucking game.
If I would have played part 1 and 2 first, and then got to part 3, I might have enjoyed them more. But to go from part 3 and then play part 1 is like, what is this? This is not Grand Theft Auto. You know what I mean? So that's the only reason why I said I didn't enjoy it.
But that's the only time like I can say that like I had like my girlfriend at the time. Like I'd play that fucking game, and she would be like, "Are you still playing that fucking game? You need to go do something." Like she'd take a nap and then wake up, and I'm still playing that fucking game. She's like, "You're still playing that fucking game?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's fucking fun." But I
Join me.
enjoyed that. And then my second one was what Nate brought up. Was I put an honorable mention for Wrestling Empire just because I think it's great. And that game's evolved so much, and he doesn't even need to evolve it anymore. Like before, I'd be like, "Oh, we need another one," It's like, nah, it's perfect how it is now. Mike Dickey has done a great job.
I agree. Well, everybody, that is a wrap for the video game edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. We'll be back soon with another show. Probably do another match of the week or something to that effect, a wrestling topic and then a non-wrestling topic. So that being said, unless you guys have anything else,
I'm good.
Stick around and watch my video. I want to make Nate pull up.
All right. Well,
Know
with
how to
that,
do it.
we will see you guys next time on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your support, and have a great week, everybody.